to help me, and
I
no
know.
one able to help.
Salons. Oops. Now we're on YouTube. We're live.
Are we live?
Now. we're live now.
Okay. Hello. Welcome. Good afternoon. I'm Ethel Racken, a professor in the Department of Language and Literature at Bucks County Community College, which you can see behind me, in all of its splendor and glory in this spring. I'm also director of the Bucks County Poet Laureate Program. Welcome to the 2020 Bucks County High School Poet of the Year Contest Reading and Celebration. And no, we don't have our typical cake to celebrate, but who needs cake when we've got each other and we've got you watching today as well. So welcome to everybody out there. So we just are in for such a treat today. Despite the difficulties and uncertainties that we've all faced this spring, this has been a really great year for the program. Many thanks to the Bucks County High School teachers who helped get the word out, to the entrants, our wonderful judges, whom I will introduce shortly, and members of Bucks County Community College. Including Dean of Language and Literature, Nicole Tracy, Donna Schaefer, Emily Bruno, and especially Rose Karwowski, who all helped to administer this program, without whom it wouldn't happen. Thanks also to Jean Dolan and to wonderful Damon Honeycutt, who's on the line today, making the magic happen on Zoom and YouTube, for all of their help with publicity and help with today's program. We received 80 entries from all over the county this year. The competition was intense. So we're delighted to announce this year's winning poet, Council Rock High School South senior, Kylie Malloy. Yay! And also with us today, all three runners up, all winners in their own right. Our first runner up is Rihanna Searle. She is yay! She's a freshman at George School. Our second runner up is Natalie Hernandez, who's a senior at Neshaminy High School. Yay, Natalie. Our third runner-up today is Jessica Wang, who's a senior at Council Rock High School South. Congratulations, Jessica. Finalists this year included Eliza Babbitt from Central Bucks High School East, Lauren Burchell from Lenape Middle School, Tatiana Cleffy from Council Rock High School South, Emily Harris from Central Bucks High School West, and Karen Song from Central Bucks High School East. Also wanted to mention that all of you who entered are winners too. You had the talent and the follow through to send us your best work, which it takes effort, confidence, and talent, and we're really grateful to you for making this year's program a success. We're also so grateful to have with us the two extremely talented judges of this year's contest, current Bucks County Poet Laureate Mary Jo Lobello Jerome, and last year's Bucks County Poet Laureate Carly Volkey. Thank you for being here, judges. The judges, I have to say, on a personal note, were especially warm, wonderful, and really dedicated this year. So we always have a good experience, but this was an extra good experience. I think it's safe to say, right, judges, that this was an extra good year for the contest. So without further ado, the poet laureates will each speak and read first. I'll briefly introduce them. And then they'll be followed by this year's high school Poet of the Year runners-up. And then finally, our winner, Kylie Malloy, the High School Poet of the Year, will read last. So whether or not this is your first time attending or participating in a poetry reading, please relax from the comfort of your home relax, and enjoy. And we might also have a few minutes for questions and answers or just congratulations at the end. And again, those of you who are watching, I believe, can send us a message on YouTube as well if you'd like to congratulate some of the winners. Okay. So first up today is Bucks County Poet Laureate Mary Jo Lobello Jerome. Mary Jo is the 2019 Poet Laureate of Bucks County, PA. She recently won an honorable mention in the 2020 Allen Ginsberg Poetry Award and has work forthcoming in the Patterson Literary Review. Other poems have recently been published in Schuylkill Valley Journal and Volkey. Her work can be found in the Stillwater Review, River Heron Review, US 1 Worksheets, Little Patuxent Review, Short Story, and Center magazines. She holds an MFA from Vermont College of Fine Arts and has written for the New York Times, Scholastic Publications, and many other magazines. Mary Jo is currently working on a collection of poems. Please join me in warmly welcoming Mary Jo Lobello Jerome.
Thank you. Thank you. So happy to be participating in this and to be recognizing young people. One of the things that it doesn't say in my bio is that I was a teacher for many years, a high school English teacher and then a college writing instructor. So this was perfect for me because I love being around young people and your energy and your talent. So this was a great opportunity for me. So thanks to Dr. Racken, all your high school teachers and all the people at Bucks Community College who organized this contest and this reading today. It was such a pleasure for me to read all the entries, really, really fun. I'm so proud to be living in Bucks County with all the creative young people here, with the creative arts community that surrounds us. But really, you guys give me hope for the future. Smart people, not afraid to think for yourselves and speaking your minds. There's always going to be lots of issues to talk about, even personal ones that you need to share so that other people can gain an understanding of and empathy towards what you're thinking. But to have your voices out there, it really, really gives me hope for the future. And boy, right about now, we need some hope for the future. So thanks to all the people who support you in your poetry, your families, your teachers, the friends, your inspirations. Thanks to everyone who have helped you get here. So congratulations to all of you. Today, I'm going to read a poem. It's, I thought it was appropriate for today because I wrote it when one of my daughters was in high school. And it's about that energy of young people that I've been talking about. It's a poem that is really completely different from the times we live in because it's about travel, nobody's traveling, and it's about being on a subway, and no one's on a subway these days. So the poem takes place in Tokyo, and on the first line, the only thing you need to know is the Hibiya line in Tokyo is a subway line, okay? So, Tokyo Underground Prayer. On the Hibiya line, I watched my daughter laugh with two friends, 14, long-haired, short-skirted, their American legs in the aisles. They snort and bend and poke each other into fits, oblivious of other riders. Their perfect faces crease with joy. And the way their eyes glint are those tears. I try to recall a time when laughing was the only thing that hurt. The train rocks and screams. The passengers lurch silently. They clench and clutch. All eyes behold the girls swaying and floating. Their voices rise like balloons, like clouds, like hallelujahs. Women on the train squint sidelong at them, unsure what reserve of poise they need to step over or ignore that tangle of candy toenails and flip-flops and legs, legs, legs. Sit up straight and shush, I want to warn. Close your knees, but I know just what they'd say. Those pert new chests straining their thin t-shirts seem a tacit rebuke. I roll my shoulder blades back, hoping mindful posture will correct what a good bra and calcium pills can't. A gray-haired man in a suit sidles near. He eyes these lives bubbling up before him, just out of reach. His gaze swims on their bare skin. I tense and my hard look says, don't you dare. The gully-lined scowl and hooded eyelids of my weathered face should stop him dead. Yet he moves closer, cocks his head and grabs the pole behind their seats. He's close enough to touch. He plants his feet and balances, and I'm up, ready to charge, heart pounding. But he rests, clasps his hands behind his back in reverie, reverse supplication, and poised, closes his eyes and sniffs the air over their heads as if pausing in a garden to remember some sweeter time. The girls laugh, unaware. I ease back, raise my head, and catch a whiff of a wafting, honeyed scent. I inhale a hint of holy incense, then I let go.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
I want to do this.
Okay. Maybe Carly now, or your next reader. That's
right. I'm just wanting more, but it is time to keep going. You're right. I'm waiting for a full-length reading here. You've really drawn me into this other world. So wonderful. Thank you, Mary Jo. So right next up, we have Carly Volkey, Bucks County Poet Laureate from last year, and still Bucks County Poet Laureate since they stay Poet Laureates forever. And Carly's book is called Until the Roof Lifted Off. And she lives in Buckingham with her 2 children. She works with adults who have intellectual disabilities. She has won several awards, including Main Street Poets 3rd and 1st place, the Stan Heim Award, the Poet Laureate Award in 2018, and so on. So there are many more things to say about both of these Poet Laureates, but they're being modest. So without further ado, please welcome Carly Volkey.
Mary Jo, I love that poem. That's not the first time I've heard that, and I love that one. Anyway, yeah, so this is the second year now that I've judged this competition, and I could, if they let me, go on doing it every year because some of the writing that comes out of it just is outstanding. And it feels like a special honor to get to glimpse into the young life of a poet. And I get to revisit that part of myself. It's very selfish. It's a selfish thing to get to do this. But I also get to remember and revisit how I was terrible. I was nowhere near as good as any of you. And I almost feel guilty that I get to pick between this battery of wonderful writers, remembering how I was floundering as a writer as a teenager, knowing how much I wanted to articulate all the things I was feeling and all the things I was seeing that I wanted to commit to the page. And I didn't stop doing it, obviously. I kept at it, even though I was bad at it. it to my own mind. It was a terrible judgment I was making against myself. Bad at it. But I kept, and but you guys are wonderful. And so to read some of these poems are a gift. To see some of these perspectives and some of this talent has been something that I'm very grateful for, the opportunity to do that. So that is what I wanted to say. Thank you. Thank you for submitting. Thank you for keeping on putting that out there. And thank you for doing it so well. So that is all I'm going to say. So I wanted to read a poem today about my kids. I wanted to, kind of relate to some of the experiences I felt that you were writing about. But I'm not. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to read a poem about the person who I shared my poetry with when I was younger and who told me to keep going when I got discouraged. And that was my dad. There were a lot of people after that, a lot of teachers, but it started with my dad. The poem is called When I Call. My father and I have an unspoken deal. When I call, he answers. Perhaps a pipe has burst in the basement, cloudy water raining ceaselessly from the ceiling, and two children, round-headed and quick, beat their feet in the new muck. Buckets filling up fast. Guide my hand to the small sure lever that stops the tide. The car is slurring and lurching again, not quite whirring, not quite whining, but a click and a moan and a tick like a bomb predict the future. Can we limp our way to payday? Or must coin jars now be shattered, seat cushions tossed for lost currency? Our offerings then left for the god of machines, of soldered wheels and iron rods, with wishes for future lucky lubrication, though he is a vengeful God. My father trusts I will text with news of some small success, photos of calf-eyed granddaughter, of word of birds in the field that need naming. He understands I only call when things are broken and require mending. Beyond that, beyond what my two feeble hands can fix, my mistakes have a way of snaking, climbing attic stairs and descending, weaving through, shedding moist skin in afternoon's calm corners. When shadows start edging out the places light pours in, he catches my heart in cracked, callous palms, holds halves together when I fear I cannot do it alone.
Thank you, Carly. So beautiful. Wonderful. Thank you. So next up is Jessica Wang from Council Rock High School South, a senior, headed on to Princeton in the fall. Very exciting stuff. Jessica, congratulations and welcome.
Thank you so much. So today I am going to read two poems. The first poem is titled Where I'm From, and it's inspired by George Ella Lyon. So she herself wrote a Where I'm From poem, and I basically modeled my format after hers, but using my own experiences, of course. I am from the Rocky Mountains, from vast blue skies and lungs full of arid but sweet air. I am from Nilla wafers combined with Asian tofu. Contrasting cultures, they tasted like home. I am from the pungent dogwood scent, the pink, not red rosebush, who peacefully sat near my house on the hill with an aura of serenity. I'm from hongbao and qipao, from dumplings and mooncake. I'm from non-English cartoons, and usually, not usually, from, whoa, you speak Chinese? I'm from 14-hour flights every other year, with my neck contorted without support and my eyes sealed in a desperate attempt to sleep. I'm from Harry Potter and Percy Jackson, dimpled canvases and a bristled paintbrush, from mellow clarinet tones contrasted with impassioned orchestral strains, from my father's love of chemistry and my grandmother's withering wit. In our kitchen cabinet is the bowl, which my parents used to eat back when they first immigrated. I can imagine my mother's frozen hands gripping the bowl in winter because they had no heat. I am born from their hardship, nurtured through their unyielding support towards the life filled with the art and love that I now know.
Oh, lovely.
So my second poem is titled What's the Point of Knowing? It's a Shakespearean sonnet. So it has the A-B rhyme scheme for 3 stanzas, and then a rhyming couplet at the end, and it's also in iambic pentameter. To know can be a risky business. It may help you succeed in school and life. Yet, knowledge threatens someone's happiness when causing people needless stress and strife. At times, I wish my mind was ignorant of horrors and atrocities and more, to not know anything significant, to rest, my problems blissfully ignored. But even so, you and I must admit that without knowledge, humans would be lost. Unable to solve problems, advance, discern, discuss, well, that's the cost. Is that not why they call it to progress? I wonder if, no matter, I digress.
Fantastic. Thank you. And would you like to read a third poem?
Oh, I can. So my third poem is titled When We Were Living in the 90s. This was written for a school assignment that said we needed to incorporate some sort of dialogue. So I decided to include 90s slang, even though I was not alive in the 90s. And I think that my generation often admires the 90s. So this was my attempt at trying to emulate that spirit without actually being there to experience it myself. Monday, a dreary day, a drudging day, a day filled with more yada, yada, yada than I've ever seen. It was a day quite like every other day since our lives settled down and we stopped looking for excitement, reluctantly relinquishing our imagination to reality. Yet, on this day, an anomalous ambiance filled the air. A slight taste of yearning touched our tongues. A breath of wistfulness wafted over our noses. And a notion of nostalgia drifted across our skin, gently grazing our arms and reminding us of our favorite decade. He's all, let's go back to the 90s. I'm all, yeah, I'm bout it. So we sit down and gaze at our faded photographs with the tattered scrapbook lying on the shabby floor between us. We caress its worn pages, words like tight and my homeboys haphazardly scribbled in the margins. And together, we recall the OG decade. We swiftly surpass the title page, which declares, this book will give you the 411 on the 90s. And we land on a page named Looking Fresh. The page is teeming with youthful pictures, ranging from novice high school dances to raging college parties, and is covered with the beaming, jaunty faces of our former friends and acquaintances to whom we no longer speak. Guys dressed in grungy biker jackets have their arms slung across blithe, midriff-bearing girls' shoulders. Everyone is grinning, pointing at the camera in defiance, and channeling the teenage spirit of rebellion. The next page, strangely, does not appear to be a scrapbook page at all. Instead, it is a page organized like AOL, with links embedded on the left side that are actually just names of our friends on the web portal. We wish for excitement like that of the World Wide Web in the 90s to liven up this boring Monday. Finally, we turned to a page titled, "So No One Told You Life Was Gonna Be This Way," filled with pictures of girls dressed to match Jennifer Aniston and candidates of bona fide bliss. My eyes center on one picture in particular. It's an innocent image of us, simply smiling, just like Ross and Rachel is jotted on the side. Those were the best of times, when we were young, when we were carefree, when we were living in the 90s.
Yay! Congratulations, Jessica.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for your reading. So next up is Natalie Hernandez. Natalie is also a senior at Neshaminy High School. And Natalie is also a musician, headed on to a conservatory program at Rowan University. Welcome. Can't wait to hear you, Natalie.
Thank you. So the first poem that I will be reading is The Things That Pass. And this was inspired actually by my English teacher when we were reading the Metamorphosis. And he was often very pessimistic and cynical, but I mean, who isn't at sometimes? So he talked about how robotic we might seem every day and how similarity is often something that we may get bored to. So this is what this poem is about. I forget sometimes when yesterday becomes today, or if today had already so suddenly slipped into tomorrow. It is only at night when moths flicker and beds moan softly that I remember, almost as a passing thought, that I am waiting for something, perhaps even a little hungrily. But it is when the bed whimpers its final woes as I sink heavily inside where it is silent and warm like a mother's womb that I quickly and so quietly forget. So that's that one. And the next poem that I have is, sorry, it's my dog. He always wants to go out and in. So the next poem I have is called Pennsylvanian Trees, and that is about the historical cycle and childhood. On a thick birch tree, a small boy is peeling the tree naked and carving sad poetry on a thick birch tree where his brother had gotten high and fell breaking his neck, and now lays buried among the thick birch tree where he had howled to punk rock a few weeks before on the branch where the small boy now peels the tree naked and carves sad poetry. Yeah. And then my final one is First Catch. And this was inspired by my creative writing teacher. He told us a story about when he was a young boy and he went with his brother to go hunting. And it was the first time that he actually shot a dove. It was a dove. And it was probably, I don't know, I think it was a pigeon actually. And he shot it down, and then when it fell, it was nothing gory about it, but it just opened and a lot of seeds poured out. And at first he felt like he should be proud of himself because it was the first time that he pointed to something and it succeeded. It fell down, but at the same time he felt sad for it. And so this is what this poem is about. I said, yesterday or today or now maybe, a child sits by the creek or the bay, or is it the river, standing now sitting with a small fish he dragged or possibly hauled through and across the ice. And he strokes its wet scales and wipes the salty residue, hugging it maybe, probably willing it possibly alive.
Wow, beautiful reading. Thank you. So next up is Rihanna Searle from George School. Rihanna is a freshman there. So we haven't talked about college plans yet, but I'm very excited to introduce and hear Rihanna read.
Thank you. So my first poem is called The Need, and it's kind of inspired by, I have a chronic medical condition, so it's inspired by my experiences with that. On paper, a medical diagnosis, a doctor's coat, simple, loose-fitting. In life, a medical condition, a carefully coordinated outfit. CFTD is wearing a corset, an image of okay, but inside, squished, tight, sore. Invalidation, people only believe and understand what they can see. Muscle disease, perpetual Monday morning grogginess.
Steve can be as an avid gardener of blossoms, roots, and seeds, sowing self-care habits, poised around
Ever-present weeds. Tight ivy clings, turning eyelids to rocks, wringing out my body, a dish towel, draining all my energy down the sink and ringing anxiety's doorbell. Me, made of invisible scrap metal, the fundamental fragments of a patchwork doll. The broken exception, swimming against the current, tripping on the path to success, laid out by people with working muscles. Normality becomes fear of accusations, explanations, greeted with understanding, gratitude to walk, waves of guilt for able limbs, accomplishment, taking breaks, stepping back for breathing room. Beauty, exhaustion, painted bags, smeared blueberry eyes. Hearing the color of my biopsy scar and the tan stitching of my jean shorts, singing a chord.
Beautiful.
Thank you. So my second poem is called Ecosystems, and I was kind of grappling with the idea of like when you're gone, like if people will remember you or not, and kind of doing great things when you're living. So that's what this one's about. If a tree falls and no one's there to hear, it has still made a sound. It sunk its roots deep, sailed its branches on the wind, and nourished its neighbors. If I fall, my branches have sung their song with the wind. My roots have sunk deep in smiles, close friends, and family, who will pass my memory down, 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 until I fade. The world is molded, not how an artist molds clay, but rather how the ocean molds cliffs. Maybe I won't be the grand sculptor, but instead a small river of change flowing into the ocean, shaping the cliffs. And then my last poem is called Impact. And for Martin Luther King Day, my school had a big workshops and activities. And one of the topics that kept coming up was like the power of words. And so that kind of got me thinking, and that's where this poem came from. Tiptoeing, running, pulsing, pounding, hissing, blaring, singing, worshiping, preaching, healing. Connotations and complements, interpretations and expectations, experiences, tinted, reflected, every shade of gray. Our days, collages of artificial how are yous, automatic thank yous, feminine I'm sorries. Our lives, framed by first mommies and last I love yous. Words bleed through our fingers, acid, vomit, words that burn. Poisoning the comment sections like gas filling the trenches, intentional murder. Words command the armies of the world, atomic bombs and ibuprofen. Hoses, dousing fires, fire trucks, rushing to save the ones we love. Through ashes, words can grow, tender, determined sprouts. Words build bridges, knit blankets, tuck children in at night. Words can embrace, can close the window during a troubled storm. Words are poultices, wrapped securely around wounds they forged. Soft kisses on sunburnt skin. Words are the tangled, broken telephone lines. The rope burn, and the sailor's knot. Words wedged under fingernails. Earthy, erosive, evolving.
Wow. Thank you so much, Rihanna. Can you believe? I mean, this is just an amazing bunch of readers, right? Not only are the poems beautiful and moving, but you're all such good readers. So what I'd like to do before we get to hearing this year's winner of our contest, Kylie Malloy, is to briefly circle back and hear what the judges had to say about these three outstanding poets. So first, to just jog your memory, Jessica Wang from Council Rock High School South read Where I'm From, What's the Point of Knowing? And this really fun poem when we were living in the 90s. We got Jessica to read all three today. Thank you, Jessica. So Mary Jo, would you like to start and then followed by Carly on your comments?
Sure. Happy to. So I should just remind anyone who's listening is that we didn't know, these were all judged without knowing who wrote what. So these, but now I'm happy to know that Jessica wrote these. This poet finds inspiration in literature and plays with form to create poems that take the reader to wholly delightful discoveries. Sparked by a scrapbook, a renowned author, and a Shakespearean sonnet, this poet crafts beautiful lines and images that open personal experiences and musings to more universal understanding. The challenging task of writing a sonnet bears mention. This poet crafted artful rhymes and keen line breaks. Here are a few examples of the poet's lovely work. I am from, quote, I am from Nina wafers combined with Asian tofu. My mother's frozen hands gripping the bowl. My grandmother's withering wit. Lovely work. Congratulations.
And Carly? I think we have to unmute you.
There you are.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bear with me 1 second. There we go. All right. So, I thought, Jessica, you submitted a fabulous group of poems. I thought everyone submitted a fabulous group of poems. And I pretty much started each thing off with fabulous group of poems. So I'm just going to say that now. But like, I'm going to say that to all of you because this was a fabulous group of poems. I was especially pulled to Where I'm From. You know, you did, I'm apologize. I have to look over here. I can't look at you. So pretend. I should just do a still of me. So you just look that, but understand I'm directing this to you. There were, with its resonant details and flowing lyrical verse, I just couldn't help myself but be pulled to it. With my mother's frozen hands gripping the bowl in winter, I mean, I could see that. You made me see it. I am from the pungent dogwood. These are lines that speak to the dance of your writing and your ability to make specific details ring. Your imagery echoes back that of Lyon's experience in the way that is both thought-provoking and touching. I did not know that George Lyon was a woman, by the way. Like, I had to look up who George Lyon was, and in my lazy looking up, still thought it was a dude. Where was I? In each of the poems in your packet, you showed us that you like a challenge, an inspired poem, a sonnet, and a prose poem. These are all challenging things to do. Guess can't do a sonnet. I've tried, can't do it.
You never know.
Yeah, it's true. I just don't want to because it's difficult. That's not an easy thing, and you did it. What courage as a writer. That's what really jumped out to me, to pick these challenging things and then jump into it. As poets, it is important that we be brave, that we tell the truth, and that we stretch our boundaries. And in doing so, we grow in our craft. That's the way to do it. You be brave, you stretch the boundaries of what you're doing, and that's how you do it. Anyway, so keep growing, keep writing, and stay brave. wonderful poems. And that's what I wrote for you. Good job. Good.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, judges. So now let's circle back on Natalie Hernandez, a senior from Neshaminy High School who read The Things That Pass, First Catch, and Pennsylvanian Trees. Mary Jo?
Okay. So this is what I wrote about Natalie's lovely work. Curiosity, imagination, and an agility with language characterize this poet's exceptional work. The poems succinctly capture moments of wonder without sentimentality, and instead show a remarkable way of viewing the world. The poet reflects on our ability to fully grasp the notion of time and, for example, imagines a small child fishing, but brings him to a surprising final conclusion that affirms life. In the poem Pennsylvania Trees, the poet cleverly uses a circular frame and images of trees to show us how brothers are connected. These are remarkable and captivating poems from a talented writer, and I so enjoyed reading them. So congratulations.
And Carly?
So I'm going to start it out by saying fabulous group of poems, because they were a fabulous group of poems, and jump in to say I'm so glad to have had an opportunity to read your poems. You are unafraid and bold with creative language choices. Like they kind of took me by surprise sometimes, which is good. Which can be scary as a writer, but it paid off. Your overarching interest in the flexibility of our very relationship with time is a thought-provoking direction to take, which I think Mary Jo just touched on. That was cool. That made your poems really cool. But you also played with language. So the content was cool. The language was cool. They were cool poems. In First Catch, the line hugging it, maybe, probably willing it, possibly alive, speaks to our deep desires, maybe, possibly. See, I was trying to do wordplay there because I thought you were going to read this. I didn't think I was going to have to do this. I was trying to be clever. Anyway, all right.
It's my fault. I screwed up the order. You're doing the best you can.
And it does so in a lyrical, bittersweet way that fits. It was a tight little poem, and somehow you managed to fit time and lyricism and like this bittersweet business in there. It was just really nice. The repetition, it speaks to the inescapability of time. It passes, but it remains with us. Powerful stuff for a simple, beautiful little poem. I hope that you feel immense pride in your packet because you should.
Yeah. Good. Absolutely. And then to Rihanna Searle, a freshman from George School. Mary Jo. Oh, and Rihanna, sorry, read Beneath Ecosystems and Impact.
Okay, Rihanna. I'm just going to read mine and not do anything clever like Carly, who is just full and animated. So I'm just reading my thing. Okay. Rihanna, you are so creative. This poet deftly builds metaphors and uses images that keep the writer attentive, involved, and so gratified to be brought to new insights. In writing about the muscular disease CFTD, the poet describes it as, quote, wearing a corset as an avid gardener, the body as a dish towel, and the disease ringing anxiety's doorbell. What wonderful metaphors there. Those comparisons are amazing. The concrete poem Ecosystem spirals like tree roots and is shaped in the same way that the world is shaped. Quote, not how an artist molds clay, but rather how the oceans mold cliffs. In Impact, the poet's imagination takes readers on a journey considering the impact of words, their power or burden, cleverly calling them, quote, atomic bombs and ibuprofen. Great line. It's a witty and smart exploration of the tools that a poet must use, the implements this poet uses to burn, reflect, or builds bridges. This poet has a true way with words. Congratulations, Rihanna.
Yes. And Carly.
Rihanna, this really is a wonderful group, a wonderful group of poems. There was no doubt that you were going to be in the top selection with a group of poems like that. Well, I'm just gonna read from what I said because I already thought this through, right? You managed to evoke vivid imagery and emotion with concise language. In Beneath, this is especially true with lines like smeared blueberry eyes and me made of invisible scrap metal. That is so rich. The imagery is so rich and multi-layered. However, my favorite line of all brings the poem to its conclusion. The tan stitching of my khaki shorts, singing a chord. Those lines are serious and the wording cheeky all at the same time. Like, how did you do that? It's stellar. In Ecosystems, it is the playful shape of the poem that guides us on the journey, and the content does not disappoint either. I particularly was pulled to the juxtaposition of the grand sculptor and the small river of change, ending our thoughtful piece. Thank you for sharing your poetry, and please keep writing. It's just so good.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, judges. So now we have the pleasure and honor of hearing Kylie Malloy, this year's Bucks County High School Poet of the Year. Kylie is a senior from Council Rock High School South, and Kylie has been a runner-up for this contest previously. So I've had the pleasure of getting to know Kylie a little bit. And as Mary Jo mentioned, everything is judged completely anonymously. So Kylie's work rose to the top without us knowing it was Kylie's work again and again. So hopefully this is encouragement to those of you who are listening, who entered the contest, that if you are not going off to college next year, but you'll still be in high school, to submit again. That's you, Rihanna, and anybody else who's listening on. And it speaks, I think, to what Carly was saying earlier, that a lot of this is, yes, your talent that we've been commenting on, but it's also your hard work. And we recognize that there's a lot of work that goes into crafting such fine poems. A lot of practice, a lot of thought, a lot of hard work. So we commend you, Kylie, especially, and to all of our winners today, on putting in that time, that work, that heart, and that brave heart into your work that resonates so well. So let's hear from the judges, and then we'll hear from Kylie. Mary Jo.
Okay. Kylie. These poems were a joy to read, absolutely a joy. So many artful and surprising nuances, such a strong and confident voice. The poet demonstrates a real gift, a true talent by choosing the details that add interest and surprise, moving the imagery forward and creating depth, and treating the subjects thoughtfully and creatively. For example, the imagery in When You Take Me for a Ghost progresses beyond the expected, starting with, quote, a chill in the air and goosebumps, the things you expect about a ghost, but moving to the non-ghostly red and purple colors of life and body. The poem then calls up Hamlet's phantom father, not for revenge as one might think, but so the speaker could be forgiven and connect with the person being addressed as they, quote, spit lake water from our lungs. By the final stanza, the ghostly speaker is still waiting for the apology to be accepted, for forgiveness to become real when the lights go out, the time when spirits normally appear. The poems are tight, well-crafted, and strong. The final stanza of For Allen Ginsberg is a remarkable image. Quote, "Since we are the same, dear Allen, I hope you are praying for me or granting our wishes like some sort of holy body above the Morningside smoke." Great lines. There are so many stunning turns of phrase throughout the poems, and here are just a few. Ginger fingers, cornflower fire, sinew and sorrow are not synonyms. That's amazing. This poet is a gifted artist, just brilliant. Thank you, Kylie.
Great. And Carly.
So when I found out that you had won, Kylie, I was so happy. So happy. Because when I read your poems last year, I loved them. And when I heard you read at a later date, I loved your poems. Your poems are so good. And when I read this packet the first time, your packet was the first one that I set aside and said, this is definitely good. I'm so glad that you won this. But you won this because you submitted these poems and you've been working hard. These are good poems. Congratulations. Your writing, as you put it in When You Take Me for a Ghost, gives me the goosebumps that are the kind worth having. And your work always has. I found myself falling into the lyrical nature in your verse that kept grabbing me, but always seemed to find its way safely off the path of the dreaded familiar. In For Allen Ginsberg, you introduced us to the poem with a flourish of W's, wiry child, wiry wild boy awoken, which dance as the poem does. And while sinew and sorrow are not synonyms, they are gloriously sibilant and just one jewel in the crown of your majestic prose piece in honor of the body that serves so well. Write more, write so much more. This is so wonderful. And that's what I wrote. Great job. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, judges. Thanks to our fantastic judges for these really thoughtful, heartfelt, intelligent, perceptive comments. Thank you so much. And now the 2020 Bucks County High School Poet of the Year, Kylie Malloy.
Hi, I did want to start by thanking you first, Ethel, for doing what you do and putting all this together. I do feel like I know you a lot better now. This whole ceremony and this whole contest has become something that I've been able to look forward to for 3 years. I really do feel like I have a community here, and thank you, judges, for reaffirming that I do have a place here and a community here to surround myself with. And I also just want to thank my parents and my friends who have been so good. My parents are downstairs on the live stream, so I wanted to make sure that I let them know how much I appreciate how much they support me in my work. So I'm gonna start with When You Take Me for a Ghost, and I'll skip the explanations on these ones. When you take me for a ghost, you are forgiving. Every chill in the air is a cause to be cautious. Shoes slipped off the soles of your feet in silence. The goosebumps are the kind worth having, and the blue in my fingers is charming, no faulty circulation. This is how ghosts are supposed to look. So the purple on my cheeks, red under my tongue is welcome. You forgive me, and I'm Hamlet's father in this one, except I'm not asking for revenge, but for your favor. I thought I made that plain enough in Act 1. but you'll slide closer to me, right? Sigh and see the clouds form, press hand to cold cheek, untie stones from my ankles with ginger fingers. The prints on the window are ours, not just mine, and my breaths are warmer when we both spit lake water from our lungs. Until then, I'm the figure in the vent above the black box, and you're still forgiving me when the lights go out. And I'm gonna next read for Allen Ginsberg. I've been obsessed with Allen Ginsberg since I was 13, which is kind of a weird obsession for a young poet, considering the content and the style of his poems, but he's one of the poets that I feel like I know as a person. And he attended Columbia University, which I'm now gonna be there in the fall. So I'm excited to maybe understand a little bit more about him in that way. So I wrote about it. For Allen Ginsberg, you wiry child, you wiry, wild boy just awoken, you learned as I will of jazz, our heroes, and the rhythm of the old brick buildings, love or just touch underneath the saxophone solo. Allen, I've sewed you into the lining of my best blazer, tucked you into my breast pocket, and followed you home to the red New Year's moon. No, I don't mean Patterson. I mean the place you grew into, where you stood beside a vision in all the scarlet ink, typewriter clicking into early morning. The place where fresh blood paints the sidewalk now, and circumstance is the mirror reflecting our identical words reading backwards. And since we are the same, dear Allen, I hope you're praying for me, or granting our wishes like some sort of holy body among the Morningside smoke. Yeah, and then my last piece, Apology, is a prose poem that recognizes the struggle that I've had with my body. I have a connective tissue disorder, so it's been really hard sometimes to feel like I belong in my skin. And so yes. These are words I cannot say. This is my coffee breath, my sugar high, my open palm and its sour candies in the morning. This is cornflower fire licking up and down my hamstrings, wailing like violin strings worked with a bow. Every angle past 90 rhymes with beauty, music to even untrained ears, and sinew and sorrow are not synonyms. Body, I'm sorry. Sorry that we don't share a name, that I pushed you hard enough for you to knock me to the floor, cold and white with gray scratches on the concrete. You were only protecting yourself. It's fair and my fault that you bit back at all. It's my fault that I forgot you had teeth too. Those ribs, sharp as cutting knives in the kitchen block. Body, I am so sorry. I'm sorry that we aren't one and the same, that you have to be the sharper weapon. I could protect you if I had the practice or if I were wearing the right gloves. As of now, I would slip out of you, shedding skin like those gentle corn snakes, all pink and raw, but I can't, so I am trying to make my peace. But body, my beloved, you are my one connection to this earth. You are the feeling of being ripe, of soft skin seeping into the dirt. Thank you again to everybody.
There I am. Okay. Thank you so much. That was fantastic. What a great reading from everyone. And thank you, judges, for your comments. I wonder, before we close out our program today, if anybody has any final comments, thoughts, or questions for each other. I'm putting you on the spot.
Say congratulations again to these wonderful, talented poets. Just what a pleasure to hear your work. And good luck in whatever you do in the future.
You know what I'd like to ask? One final thing, judges, a piece of advice you have. I think Carly, you already, one piece of advice was just to keep writing. I think both of you have been giving that advice, which is fantastic. And nothing else really needs to be said. But if you have anything to offer to these young, very promising writers, one final piece of advice, something that's helped you. Carly, any thoughts there? And then back to Mary Jo.
My writing didn't start taking off until I found other writers to bounce my writing off of. Because when you write in a vacuum, things that sound good to you and look good to you might not make sense to other people and can really hold you back. I also find that I am inspired to write more when I'm around inspired people. And my friends, when I corner them and say, hey, can you sit down and listen to this poem I'm writing? They get this like deer in the headlights look. And I have to deal with that when I'm around other people who write. So that's the number one thing that I would suggest to anyone who writes or makes art of any kind, is have at least one circle of friends who do what you love and you can bounce ideas off of. So that's the biggest piece of advice that I could give to any poet, is find a group of people who you can workshop with.
Yeah.
It's great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Find a group of writers. And as you move into college, girls, or as you move along in high school, Rihanna, you're going to gravitate towards those who have the same interests. Just like sports people go with the sports people, you're going to find the people who are interested in the same things you are. Keep working with them. I have friends from when I got my master's years and years ago that I still share work with, and it's wonderful. Here in Bucks County, have a wonderful group of artists that we share work with, and just love that workshop. But the other thing I want to say too is treat your work seriously. I went to college to be a poet, spent the first 3 years of college studying poetry, and then freaked out when I was going to be a senior in college because I realized I would not make a dime, not make a penny, be able to support myself writing poetry. So then I switched over to other kinds of writing and teaching. But I moved away from poetry in my young life, and I regret that. I've come back to it again in my later years. So take it seriously. Don't expect to make any money, and you'll do very well. I'm sure all of you.
That's great advice as well. Well, with that, thank you so much to everyone who's been here today and everybody that's listening on. And good luck with the transition that you're all going through. We're all, in a sense, going through a transition right now, but especially to the poets, the winners today. You're in a transitional phase and you have everything you need to succeed. You have the resiliency, the brains, the hope, the talent to succeed despite or because of whatever is happening. So best wishes to you all, and we'll stay in touch. This is, as Mary Jo said, just the beginning of the conversation. We'll all be in touch. Take good care, everyone.
Hi, thank you again.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again.
Everyone.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.